A man worth millions sat alone at a candlelit table, watching people laugh, talk, and live in a world filled with sounds he would never hear. He had accepted loneliness as part of life, until the cleaning lady's tiny baby crawled toward him and did something no one expected, something that would change all three of their lives. Ethan Hale, known across the city as the silent millionaire, had built an empire without hearing a single voice. He had lost his hearing at 10, after an illness that doctors said he was lucky to survive. He learned sign language late, relied mostly on lip reading, and preferred solitude because misunderstandings drained him. He visited the same quiet, dimly lit restaurant every Friday, choosing the corner seat where no one would attempt small talk. People admired him from afar but never tried to approach. They didn't know how. Tonight was no different, except that someone small, unexpected, and innocent was about to do what adults never dared. Across the room, Maria, the restaurant's cleaning lady, struggled to cradle her 6-month-old baby, Luca, while sweeping the floor before closing time. She always worked night shifts because she couldn't afford childcare. She wore tired eyes but carried a heart full of hope. She glanced at Ethan often, not because he was famous or wealthy, but because she admired how peacefully he sat, like nothing in the noisy world bothered him. When her mop slipped from her weak grip, it clattered loudly. The baby jolted, slipped from the blanket, and began crawling straight toward the millionaire's table. Maria froze in panic, whispering, "Oh no, Luca, not there." She rushed to grab him, but something unexpected stopped her. The baby reached Ethan, pulled himself up by clutching Ethan's trouser leg, and tapped his knee gently. Once, twice, like a child greeting a friend. Ethan looked down in surprise. Babies didn't hesitate with him the way adults did. When he smiled, Luca giggled, and then did the unthinkable. He placed his tiny hand on Ethan's chest, right over the heart, and babbled softly. Sounds Ethan couldn't hear, but he could feel the warmth, the vibration of pure innocence. Something inside Ethan softened, a place he had kept locked for years. Maria arrived breathlessly, apologizing, trying to pull her baby away, but Ethan shook his head gently. He lifted his hand and signed, "It's okay. He's sweet." He formed the words slowly, hoping she might understand. Maria didn't know sign language, but she understood kindness when she saw it. She gave a shy, relieved smile. That moment might have ended there, but Luca reached again, this time grabbing Ethan's hand and holding it tightly. And that was how, for the first time in years, Ethan didn't dine alone. The following week, Ethan returned to the restaurant earlier than usual. He didn't admit it to himself, but he hoped to see the little boy again. Maria was there, exhausted from the rising rent and long shifts. Her manager had cut her hours, and she didn't know how she'd afford medicine for Luca's cough. Ethan noticed her swollen eyes, noticed how she kept bouncing the baby to soothe him. He tapped the table gently to get her attention, then pointed to the empty chair. She hesitated, not wanting to disturb a customer. But Luca stretched his arms toward Ethan like meeting an old friend. Ethan let out a soft breath, half laugh, half wonder, and invited them to sit. Maria opened up slowly, answering questions through gestures, simple words, and expressions. She told him about her husband leaving, her 2 jobs, her dreams of studying nursing. She didn't complain. She spoke the way exhausted people speak when the heart can't hold everything in anymore. Ethan listened with complete attention, nodding, reading her lips, piecing together meanings. For the first time in a long while, he felt connected. Just as she spoke about how she wished she could give Luca a better life, the baby playfully slapped Ethan's hand and burst into laughter. Ethan couldn't hear it, but he felt the vibration again, the same warmth he felt that first night. Something inside him stirred, a longing he didn't know he still had. He had lived in silence for so long that he had forgotten how to feel something loud in his heart. One evening, as the rain poured outside and the restaurant remained nearly empty, Maria received a phone call, the kind that shatters fragile worlds. Her landlord was evicting her. She held back tears in front of the baby, but her trembling hands revealed everything. Ethan watched her crumble silently in the corner, and in that moment, he made a decision without giving himself time to think. When she came back to collect her things, he placed a folded paper on the table. She opened it and gasped. It wasn't money thrown at her. It wasn't charity. It was an offer, an opportunity. He wanted to hire her as his live-in assistant and housekeeper, with full salary, childcare support, and flexible hours. Not because he pitied her. Not because he needed help. But because she and her son had given him something priceless. Connection. Maria was speechless. Why me?" she whispered. Ethan looked at her, placed his hand over his heart the way Luca had done to him. Then he signed, slowly but firmly, "Because you made me feel heard." Without saying a word, her tears came freely then. Not from helplessness, but from finally being seen. Maria accepted. And from that day on, Ethan's mansion was no longer silent. Not because he regained his hearing, but because it became filled with laughter he could feel, love he could sense, and a baby who crawled into his life and healed a loneliness money never could. In the end, the deaf millionaire didn't just save a struggling mother. She and her child saved him too. And every Friday night, at that same restaurant table, 3 lives that once stood alone now sat together, proving that the loudest miracles are often the ones felt, not heard.